Hello, friends, and welcome to the Handyman Success Podcast. Our mission is to teach and inspire by sharing the stories and insights of our guests. Whether you're a prospective, new, or seasoned handyman business owner, you will learn practical business tips you can apply today and be inspired that you can reach your goals and create a better tomorrow. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Call, owner of Handyman Marketing Pros. We equip small, family-owned handyman businesses with modern websites and SEO to help grow their businesses online. I'm joined by my co-host, Alan Lee, who has built his handyman business to a point where it runs without him. He now teaches others, step by step, how to do the same thing through his Handyman Journey business coaching. You can learn more about our marketing and coaching services by scheduling a call with us on handymansuccess.net. So whether you're patching drywall, sitting in the office, or making your third run to Home Depot, we invite you to pull up a chair and sit with us on another episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. Today, we are joined by Brent Colquitt in Newport Beach. His business is OCTasker. Brent, thank you so much, man, for joining us today.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, give us a little snapshot of your business. And, I already mentioned in Newport Beach, just a little snapshot of OCTasker and where you're at.
Yeah, sure. Brent Colquitt, founder of OCTasker. I'll get into kind of how the name came about as well. In the Newport Beach, California area, we opened in 2017 as a side gig. And so we've been in business for about 7 years. The last 2 years has been a full-time opportunity for me. So I started out in the corporate world like a lot of your guests have. I've seen on your podcast, which I've seen every podcast, by the way. But I did about 35 years in the corporate world, accounting, and then went into IT. And then I was working remotely, and I had some opportunity, some spare time working remotely, and I started with TaskRabbit and started doing little jobs here and there, just make some extra income. And then I started doing Nest installations and really enjoyed that. Nest changed the way they found their installers, so I had to pivot, and we went into the the handyman business, and that's kind of how we launched. And I was laid off a couple years ago, and I told my wife I'm going to do this full time. I went and found a used van, and I called her and I said, I think this is the next step. I got to get the van. And she said, well, let's do it. And so we kind of launched, and that's how we got started.
Cool. So you kind of started on TaskRabbit, kind of just side jobs to make some side income. Did you always just do your own home improvement and repair, and that's where that interest and that hobby?
I did. My father-in-law was very handy. He taught me a lot of things. And I learned from him. And then we had a few of our own homes where we had to do some improvements and learn there too. And really just watching YouTube and podcasts and all kinds of sources of information to learn how to do some of these things.
Cool.
Awesome. So do you still get work through TaskRabbit, or how do you currently work?
No, so currently we get all of our jobs through SEO, thanks to Jason. So we're a customer of his. As soon as we took the leap and went with his website development team, that really pumped up our revenue a ton, and I knew it would. I was ready for the wave to hit. And so we do Google local services, Google ads. We do a little bit of Thumbtack, not much. We did more of that in the beginning, but we invest most of our money in a Google ads and with Jason.
Fantastic. So what's the progression of that? So you were using TaskRabbit when you first started kind of part-time, right, back in 2017. How long did you use TaskRabbit, and how did that progress? When did you actually get to a point where you stopped using it and started investing in Google ads?
I started using it I was on it for probably, I don't know, 8 months to a year. And every time I'd go to a job and do a great job, the homeowner would say, hey, do you do any business on the side? We don't have to go through TaskRabbit, do we? And I'd say, well, we should, but So I started putting, I got business cards. And when I went on those, it's kind of how I started. That's one of my tips for new guys. If you want to get business, customers, doing that is a good way to just start getting customers. You got to kind of low ball your pricing initially, get the momentum going, and hand out the business cards. And that's what I did. And then I just said, well, I'm just going to break off on my own.
That's really great insight, and because I know a lot of our listeners and people in the Facebook group, they see kind of back end hourly pricing of $100, $150 an hour, and the reality is, though, for most businesses, when you're starting out, especially with not much experience, is that is going to be your lowest pricing ever, and there is value in building experience, building a reputation, building clientele. And so, services like TaskRabbit, I know Thumbtack, I've seen quite a bit used successfully, are really great lower cost ways to generate leads when you're just getting started and aren't too sure where to start. So that's really great, like inside that experience that you've had there, Brent, and acknowledging too, like, I've probably got a price lower, especially the clients on those platforms are kind of expecting lower prices. They're more price sensitive than, say, Google.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And getting those reviews is important there too. And then that just kind of launches you onto the next platform.
Mm-hmm. So how did OCTasker? You mentioned the name. How did that name come about?
So in TaskRabbit, you have to give yourself a name. I'm in Orange County, California. I was a tasker, so OCTasker, and that's what I did. And I just, I had that name, and I just kept it because, first of all, I, like some of your other guests, I didn't want to put handyman in the title. I wanted it to be more kind of generic in nature, in case I wanted to expand to other places as well and do other things. So that's how I got the name, and it's kind of stuck. So and I went out and found a logo with a website company that does logos, and we just kind of ran with that.
That's great. So what do you think about that? Because I mean, it's an interesting topic you bring up, right? That whether you should put handyman in your name or not, and you obviously chose not to. Do you feel good about that? Do you wish that you had a different name, or do you like yours, or what? What's that look like?
I kind of was resistant about saying I was a handyman because I consider myself a white collar guy in a blue collar world, right?
Okay.
And so I tried to separate myself from that because part of our business is not only handyman work, but we also have kind of a technology side of things. We do smart home installations. I mentioned we do Wi-Fi, some security things. So we do a little bit more than the average handyman business does. So I didn't want to kind of pigeonhole ourselves with that name. And also we do commercial work as well. We've been moving, I'll get into that too, but we're moving more into commercial work. And handyman with commercial work, just handyman to me is more of a residential type of a thing. But on our van, which we've just recently wrapped, it does say OCTasker, but on the top, instead of saying OCTasker Handyman at the top, I say we're handy, man.
There you go.
And I've gotten a lot of positive comments about that where people go, hey, that's, I get that. That's a good one. So
yeah,
that's
good.
I will say on the name OCTasker, TaskRabbit is largely kind of frowned upon in the Facebook groups and stuff. But it can be a good place to start for some people. But I will always remember this now that Brent is inspired by TaskRabbit and now has OCTasker. So there's a lot of value that came in that vein. So
I like that.
Before we go any further, Brent, and I'd also love to like one question specifically is like your corporate background and how that's influenced, because I know you're big into systems and processes and efficiency, communications in your business. So I certainly we want to dig into that. But to give us a little snapshot, what was your revenue last year? What's your goal this year? If you don't mind kind of giving us a lay of the land there, and then so what your team looks like,
Sure.
having a technician. So
let me start with, first of all, we're in Newport Beach, right? So the kind of the average income is around $240K a year, and the home value average is like 2 million, right? So one of the nice things about where we are is we're kind of not impacted by the economy as much because the people around here have got enough money that the economy doesn't really phase them that much. So that's a big advantage, and that's where we're trying to focus on that area. That's why I think, Jason, when we did the website, it was like OCTasker top, Newport Beach handyman service, which is propagated all over the place and works great, because anyone in Newport Beach goes handyman near me, boom, we come up, right? Which is what we want. So revenues, I started back in 2022 as far as what I wanted to talk about. And we started in 2022, and I was still kind of starting to come on full time. We only did about 65K in revenue. We did 131 jobs that year, and our average job was $496. Okay. 2023, as soon as we hooked up with Jason's group, we went up to 252K a year. Okay. So
Nice,
we jumped,
nice.
and we were full time. So we jumped considerable amount. The jobs were 339, and our average job was $745. Okay. In 2024 through March, we're projected to do about 350K this year. We're up 93% right now, year over year.
Wow.
We're probably going to do about 300 jobs, and our average job size is about $1,100, which is also up 93%. And our new jobs booked are up 43%. So like I said, the wave came. I knew it was coming. And so we kind of prepared for that. We have 2 techs right now. We start off with hiring them as subs to kind of test them out. And there's, some legalities there that you have to be careful with. But once they pass that, we pull them on as a full time, and then we're growing in that manner.
Okay, awesome. And so you only have the 2 techs, or do you have other employees as well?
Yeah, we have 2 techs. We do we do work with some subs, like people that specialize in doors, for example, water damage in the wintertime. Other things like that, maybe roofers, of things water we don't want to touch, anything water we want to touch. So we have relationships with those folks as well, and then we're hiring more people.
Awesome. And so are these 2 techs, are they 1099s or W-2 employees?
W-2.
W-2, okay, that's awesome. And what are they full-time? Like, how does that work? You full-time right now or part-time?
Yeah, good question. So we have they're full-time. Story real quick. So I was driving down the street and saw a guy in his Toyota truck, and he had handyman on there with his number. So I'd seen him a couple of times. So I called him and said, hey, we're OCTasker, what do you do? And he's got his own little business, and he was a senior guy. We got him on as well, kind of as a part-time guy. Very good at what he does. He's given us a lot of good ideas, like mixing drywall in a steel like bowl, like you would mix cookies with, and doing other things that we've leveraged from his experience. But basically, so we're trying to find people that have experience, and also pulling in people that are new, and we're training them. But basically, pulling on full-time people, because we just have more business than we can handle right now.
That's fantastic. And so with those technicians, do they drive their own vehicles, or do you supply that? And then what do you do about tools?
Yeah, so here's what we try to do. What I've learned is that if you have 2 people on the job, most jobs require 2 people. There are some that you can send out one guy, but if you have 2, you can be more efficient. You can get the job done, not in exactly half the time, but close, depending on the work. But so we have the van. We have them go in the van or drive their own vehicles. We pay them an hourly wage, whether they're driving or they're on the job. And so that's how we work that. The tools, we issue tools. So we have like a Milwaukee bag full of stuff that we give them, and then we've got the van that's got everything in it. So that can end up on the job if needed as well.
Okay, awesome. And so are you with them on each job, or do you send them out by themselves, or like what is your role in the business right now?
Yeah, right now I am. I'm out in the field quite a bit.
Mhm.
I'm trying to break away from that and run the business
Mhm.
and not be in the business. So Alan, jealous of where you are, but getting there.
Mhm.
And so, but one of the things that's utmost important for my company is the customer service, and I
Right.
want to make sure that they understand. We give them full training, so we might go out with them for 3 months before we let them loose, so they understand how we communicate, how we clean, how we perform. And then once they pass that and they have that experience, they can go out and do their own jobs. But having
Mhm.
two guys is really important because we lift heavy things or longer items, or we can tackle two things at once. Uh,
Mhm.
Before I was just out by myself when I first started, right? So, but now that seems to be a good fit for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the customer service point too is awesome because, like we talked about on the podcast, a lot of times, I mean, that's like the biggest differentiator. A lot of people can
Mhm.
install a Ring doorbell, but the whole experience and how it's done and answering the phone, your customer service, clean technicians, a big part of that. So
Yeah.
that kind of leads into like what kind of like systems and processes do you have in place for providing that exceptional customer experience? I know, Brent, just from working with you, that you're very big on your systems process and good client communication and making people feel heard and
Yeah.
answered. So if you don't mind walking us through like your customer experience and how you execute on that.
Sure. Yeah, our customer journey. So we use House Call Pro for our home service business for estimates, invoicing, dispatching. We use Chirp for our texting, and that sends out a text message when when the estimate is sent to them to remind them to look at it, when the appointment is made, follow up afterwards, asking for the reviews. That works great because we don't have to have somebody there doing that. It texts basically what we would do if we could manually sit down and text, or if we wanted to do that. We also use open phone for our business phone. We also do texting from there, and that kind of gets tricky because there's a texting number coming from Chirp, and then there's one coming from open phone. So I kind of manage.
Mhm.
But what's also interesting that we just started using the last couple of months is an artificial intelligent virtual assistant. And
Mhm.
so people call, they get the AI agent, and she answers the phone, lets them know our minimum charge, and lets them know what we do. Can also schedule appointments for us. Can transfer if they understand the back door to getting to us is like transfer to a representative, or can I speak to a human? Sometimes people get frustrated, but we talk to the folks that use it, and most of them like it. It's
Mhm.
better than getting an answer machine and going through the phone tree, hit one for this, two for that. So that's worked really well. And of course, people pay thousands of dollars a month for answering services
Mhm.
and things like that.
What
But
is that, Air.ai or another
no, we did look at that.
okay.
No, it's not. It's a different one that it's called Agent 4.
Okay.
Agent
Yeah,
4.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And
Okay.
then we also use Motion for our projects. So each customer gets a new project, so we can kind of track where we are with them in the journey. And we also have self-scheduling. We use Acuity scheduling for that, so someone can go onto our website and self-schedule without even being involved with us. It links to our Google Calendar, which House Call Pro feeds into. And we also have a site chat, which pops up, and people use that as well. And then lastly, we use Company Cam, which gives us the ability to take pictures when we go on estimates, publish reports. People are very impressed with that. We can send them a
Mhm.
report before and after. And it's really about being professional and looking bigger than you are, really, is kind of the trick until you get there.
Mhm.
Those are
Mhm.
basically all the things that we use.
Cool. That reminds me that saying Alan, one of my favorite things that Alan Lee says is the big problem with small businesses is that they think and act like small businesses. And so
Mm-hmm.
thinking and acting like a big business, over time kind of levels you up. So anyway, that Alan, your quote comes to mind. That stuck with me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure.
yeah.
That's a
That's
good
ultimately
tip.
the key. Yeah, and you got to focus
Yeah.
on that. You got to think of, as your small business, right? How can you provide the same or better service than other big businesses out there, right? That's really the key. And having all those things in place, Brent, like that's fantastic. You got a lot of different irons in the fire when it comes to, talking to people and communication, but all that will go a long way with establishing your brand in your area and ultimately helping you grow your business.
And by the way, those are all pretty much integrated. So one talks to the other that talks to the other.
Mhm.
It's not like you've got to do duplicate entries and things like
Mhm.
that. That's also key.
Yeah.
So as
I
you
love
kind of
it.
went about creating this system, Brent, like was it just kind of like being in the process yourself and thinking like, well, what kind of software could kind of remove me from this or connect this and that? Like, is there any kind of methodology that you'd have there or advice for
Yeah, I
anyone
mean,
that's kind of like struggling with efficiency and communications and feeling drowned in, requests or their business, really?
part of it is being on the other side and experiencing, a service provider and understanding how they work and what I liked and what I didn't like. Also looking professional. You publish an estimate that looks super professional, and also the communication piece, right? I could hire a team of texters in the back room, or I could use an automation to do that for me. And so yeah, a lot of it has to do with being efficient, being able to run a one-man show, and then leverage that into uh, making money because I don't have to pay folks to do those things. And really, I found that getting the right mix of the automations and the self-scheduling and all those things is key to being efficient and growing.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Yep, definitely have to create those systems and processes. And let's see, where did you do you have any books that you could recommend for people that are interested in kind of learning how to create those systems and processes that you've read, or maybe specific podcasts? Like what kind of helped you kind of think along this process other than just being a service provider and wanting to,
Yeah.
create a good thing, but do you have any like resources that would help out some people listening?
Yeah, I've read the E-Myth book.
Mhm.
That's pretty good. I've also, as I mentioned, listened to all your podcasts, which there's a ton of information out of there. You know what you guys ought to do is run a virtual assistant on those podcasts and just pull out all the tips that people have brought
Yeah.
out. You'd have a book in itself to do that.
That's a great idea, actually. Very
That has
Yeah.
helped a lot. That has helped a ton, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Then there's just some things that I see. I'm in Facebook groups, handyman groups, House Call Pro, and other things like that. And people share information. That's how I learned about a lot of these things, is just in being in those groups and listening to the podcasts and things like that. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I pulled out from you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, YouTube University and the
Yeah.
and any listeners, if they're not part of the Facebook groups, the Handyman Journey Mastermind, the Handyman Success Mastermind,
Yeah. I'm in.
once in those, Alan created the original OG Handyman Journey, the original Handyman online community, if you will.
Yeah.
Those are amazing resources alongside the podcast, YouTube, Alan Lee's Handyman Journey channel. There's so much information out there,
100%.
and it's about kind of just digging through it and implementing it and seeing what works and what doesn't. Certainly a big something really notable, Brent, that I love what you've done too, is you just know your market. Like you are in a very great market, a high end, great clientele all around you.
Yeah.
But identifying too, like this is what they expect when they pay a premium rate for a premium service to have this customer experience.
Yeah.
One question I kind of want to go back to was your average ticket size going from about 400 in 2022, 700 the next year, and then this year tracking at 1100. What are some main factors that have driven your average ticket size increase? Is it just pricing alone? Is it the type
Yeah.
of jobs? If you don't mind explaining a little bit
Yeah,
about.
sure. No, it's a combination of things, and I think I've heard on your podcast as well. You know, we've eliminated the small little jobs. Those are important in the beginning to get going, but we've eliminated those. We'll let some other companies deal with those. But we've
What
also,
jobs though do you mean? Like anything less than an hour or two, or?
yeah, I mean, well, for example, we implemented where our average is our minimum is 249 to go out. So some people
Mhm.
right away that just eliminates them. They just don't even want to touch that. You know, I got a desk to put together. 249 seems expensive to me. I say, I understand that. You want to go with somebody else? That's fine. No problem. Um, so kind of going for the higher ticket jobs, turning those down without really saying, sorry, we can't help you, but you know, pitch a number to them, and sometimes they might take it because we've had customers that are in need where they like, you know, some people don't understand if you want to ship something overnight, it costs you like, you know, 5 times more than it does if you're willing to wait a week for it to get there, right? So so if you want it tomorrow, we can do it. It's going to cost you more, but it's really just picking out the right jobs, understanding, you know, what your minimum charge should be, so you could dispatch somebody and still make some money. And so that's why our ticket prices have gone up because of those factors, basically.
Okay.
Mhm.
What are kind of the focus, like what are your dream services where you're just booking these jobs all day long and you'd be a happy camper? I know one, you said it's like the smart home. I think that's a really untapped handyman niche.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind, kind of what are your kind of dream ticket items that you'd love just have your guys doing day in, day out?
You know, what's really, I think, a great job to have is either hooking up with a realtor where they've got to do home improvements to sell the house, or they've sold it and they have a checklist, you know, in escrow that they have to get done before they can close the deal. So those are nice because a lot of times they're like, well, I don't care if you get it done this week or next week, get it done in the next couple of weeks. And so we
Hmm.
use those a lot as fillers. So if we've got a job schedule and then we're like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Well, we got this job. Well, hold on, we've got this other rental that we or sale that we've got to do. So those are great because people are willing to pay a little bit more for those because they want to get it done. They just want to close the deal and get it done. And also, you're not on a strict time schedule, so it's great to do those when you can, or if you have that on the schedule, just knock it out. But those are great, and really, it doesn't matter whether it's drywall, painting. I mean, painting is, I don't like to do painting a lot. It's really tricky business and messy. But we'll take those because we do a lot of drywall repair where we'll say, well, they'll say, do you paint? Well, what, you know, what are we going to say? No, we don't paint. You got to find somebody else. But no, we'd like your business for that too. So we say, yeah, we paint, you know. So those are kind of good. And then and the high tech jobs are good too because there's good margins on those. People are willing to pay a little bit more for that type of service. And technologies, you know, it's not only connecting that smart home device or that Wi-Fi, but it's the software behind it as well, and getting them trained on how to use it and how to operate it properly.
That's great. I love it. So you kind of alluded to, you know, before having kind of a minimum to come out and then pricing certain jobs, but how do you by and large like price jobs? How do you charge for jobs? I know that's a kind of a hot topic right now in the handyman industry
Yeah.
is like, how do you price? How do you come up with a price? Like, what do you guys do? What's your philosophy on that?
So we charge like this: a junior tech we charge out at $100 an hour, and a senior tech we charge out at $150 an hour.
Hmm.
And typically they, like I said, they both go out on the jobs at the same time. So we're really at $250 an hour if we've got two techs out on the job.
Hmm.
And so basically, we estimate that it's about a 60% efficiency rate. So we create our estimates based on that. And so we might say this would take 6 hours to do. You know, at a half efficiency rate would be 3 hours, but it's probably more like around, you know, 3.5 to 4 hours. And that's basically how we charge it out. Before we would just say, well, $100 an hour seems reasonable. Or like I said before, when we were a less mature company, we would charge even less just to get the reviews, really to build those reviews up and launch our pricing. And we just keep raising the prices until people say you're too much, or we're getting the jobs, but we're not getting the small ones. We're getting the big ones.
I love it. That's a great example.
Yeah, reviews are absolutely just critical. I mean, I think hopefully everyone knows that by now that's listening to our podcast or even been in the Facebook group. One thing that always stuck with me that I think the best way to explain it was Ben with Hank's Handyman, and he said, build reviews until you have more than everybody else, and then just keep going.
Yeah.
So I think that's just, it's true. Like, you know, there's no ceiling, and it just, you can't understate the importance of building.
That was a great podcast, actually. That one, I got a lot from that guy. That was really good. I'm like, wow, I want to be him, you know. But we've got over 150 5-star reviews. We have nothing less than 5-star reviews, and that's there's a reason for that. When we go out and we perform as advertised, and we make sure we clean up, the customer's happy, anything else you need, we do not walk away without a 5-star review.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. And that makes me think of, you know, I probably talked to, I talked to a bunch of handymen this week, but probably 5 of them, they asked me the question, like, how do I get more jobs? You know, like, what's something I do to get more jobs? I'm not at the point where I can afford a website. Like, what can I do? And I look them up on Google, and, you know, they have 1 review or they have 2 reviews. And I think people just oftentimes they don't think about, you know, the what reviews do for them. You know, I think that's probably the single biggest thing you can do to get organic searches on Google is to increase your reviews. So go back, you know, and like for people listening, right, go back, ask people that you've worked for a 5-star review. Ask your sister if you replaced her kitchen faucet, ask her to leave you a review, right? And then going from here on out, going forward, ask every single person for a review on Google, and that's really going to help you out so much. So I think that's fantastic, Brent, that you got 155, man. Just keep going, because it's only gets better from here. It's like a snowball.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And real quick, I want to share a few things that are kind of interesting about where we are. We actually have a lot of we've served a lot of famous people over here, which is kind of interesting, because that propagates into more business. But a few that I want to mention real quick: the Kajabi founder. We've done the LA Chargers owner, the guy that created Oculus Rift. Number 6 Google employee, one of the Broadcom founders, Jason Oppenheim, who has his own reality show. He's a real here, and an NBA player. So we've got a bunch of different high value people, and I always like to tell my techs, hey, you know what? If we're serving these higher net worth individuals, you know, maybe something will rub off on us, you know, and maybe that $1 million dust will hit us, and you know, because it's certainly better than serving the folks that are not wealthy, or you know, that don't have that kind of pull in the community as well. So
you know, Jim Rohn says, you know, you become the average of the 5 people you hang around. So if you can hang around those people long enough, just keep doing handyman work for them. Eventually, you'll become the average of them.
Completely. That's kind of the idea.
That's great. So Brent, what would you say is, like, I want to ask you kind of a twofold question. Like, what would you say have been some of your like failures in business that you've learned from? And then also what would you feel like have been some of your successes? Like what has went well and what hasn't gone so well in business?
Sure. Let's start off with the positive, and then I'll go to the not so positive. But basically, you know, the automation, the website, the Google ads, the van, and the wrap, those are all really good things. And again, the texting with the automated follow-ups for everything, that is super key.
I love the polo too. To our listeners, we have Brent is a very handsome man. He's probably about 35 years old. It's got a black logoed polo. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to check it out on YouTube, and you can see the full look here.
Yeah. Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, I try to put on, my model face here. So the other thing that works well that I found, and this is when I had another income when I was doing it part, and I found this out. Don't act like you need the business. If you seem desperate, it scares customers away. If you act like you can take it or leave it, or hey, you want somebody else. I don't know how many customers have come back after we've said, hey, if it doesn't work out, let us know. And a lot of times they do come back as they realize, hey, you are the guy, and the other guy was not the right pick. So the podcast, getting your own URL, right? I see a lot of guys that say, Joe Handyman at Gmail or whatever. Just not a professional look. If you it doesn't take much to start your basic website. If you want to really have the tidal wave hit, you talk to Jason, and that'll happen. But getting just some kind of a web presence, the shirts, we all wear the same shirts. We don't wear these out to the jobs, but we wear these to estimates. But we do have T-shirts that identify who we are. We all look the same. I've got a younger guy that works with me, and he's got a shorter haircut and the same shirt. And 9 out of 10 customers go, "Is that your son?" No, we just have short hair and the same shirt. We all, look alike. So
there you go.
Basically, just what's worked well is just serving the customer well, how you want to be served, serve the customer that way. The bad is originally estimating too low, not charging enough, scheduling, making sure you get that done right, having enough people, having enough techs to do the work, or even the admin side of things. And then also kind of assumptions about what customer service looks like for your tech versus what you're expecting for them to do. I had a guy that worked for us, and I said, whatever you do, when you paint, do not throw your used paint in the customer's trash can. And what happened? He did, right? The customer called and said, I'm going to get in trouble now because I've got all this paint in my trash can, right? Trash, cleaning up your trash. We've got a trash can we take with us, a big trash can, and we throw all our stuff in there, wrap it up in a bag, and we can throw it away. But one of the things that I found is, where do you put the trash? Like, where does this trash go at the end of the day? That's a problem. Office space, kind of storage, meeting area, until you get bigger and you can afford a place. Having office space and, kind of working out of your house like we do, and talking to customers and having techs, meet in a central place, that can be tough too. Spending the time on business development is also a thing that we're not doing well, so that's kind of bad. And then the last thing is techs seeing the pricing. We used to kind of hide the pricing from the techs because I didn't want to show them what we were charging versus what we're paying them. And we said, let's just be transparent. And we did that. And, we had some guy say, hey, you're charging $400 to put a door in, and you're paying me $30 an hour. Something's not right here, Well, I said, here's the thing. If we go over the estimate, are you going to pay me back then if we have to do more, So the problem is the tech has to understand that they're getting paid. They have a separate agreement for that. And if you want to talk about that for just a minute, we also do a pay for performance on our tech. So if you beat the budgeted hours, you get 35% of the billable revenue. Okay,
there
so
you go.
Charging you out at $100 an hour, you're going to make $35 an hour for the whole, not 35% of the job, not per hour. So if you can do a 4-hour job in 2 hours and be efficient and not do a lousy job but keep the quality up, you're going to make more money. So that's kind of how we try to mitigate those kinds of issues with the techs.
One thing that you said, Brent, that I just want to highlight for our listeners was like being honest with your expectations that you have for service and how your techs operate, and being honest with that and actually writing it down and communicating that, like the paint in the trash can. But if you don't set expectations and put down processes of what you expect your technicians and how they should operate and treat people and do specific jobs, how are they supposed to do it to match your expectations?
for
So
sure.
being honest with those expectations, communicating to your team members can be hard at first, but it's so
Yeah.
important to have that
Right.
transparency and expectation. And the last thing too that you kind of alluded to was whoever you're hiring. One of the best advice I got was, as long as you're hiring someone that's at least about 70% of what you could do, that's good enough, because then you could train them to be 80, 90, 100,
Yeah.
110% better than you originally were. And so not getting too hung up at the same time with, well, I would have done it this way and I would have done it that way. You didn't do this the way I expected, but to train them up that level, but have that minimum threshold of about 70% of the job that you could do within reason. So anyway, I thought that was a great insight there.
Well,
On expectation.
and another expectation and tip is, if you're in a customer's home, knock on the door of the bathroom before you go in, because we had a tech not do that and walk in on a customer, in the bathroom, which was quite an awkward and uncomfortable situation, so just use some common sense along the way as well,
Yeah,
Should be
definitely.
rule number one, OC task.
Yeah.
Knock on the bathroom door before you walk in.
Yeah, that's great. And Brent, you also alluded to it before. We're kind of jumping back, but can you tell us a little bit about commercial work? You said you were kind of you do some commercial work. You're getting more into that. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that looks like?
Yeah. So again, because of Jason and our SEO, you would not believe how many commercial businesses just go out and Google for a handyman. It's amazing. We've got some malls here. We've got South Coast Plaza over here. We've got Fashion Island. We've got some other businesses over here that need help, and they contact a service that then reaches out to local handymen. And so we've probably gone about 20% commercial and 80% residential. And the commercial is really high margin. So in addition to the revenue I mentioned for the rentals and the home sales, but the commercial side is very profitable. They're willing to pay more. I had a guy say, hey, look, we're at the end of the year last year. We've got a budget number, and if we don't spend it, we're going to lose it next year. So we just give me a price. And I'm like, oh, okay, I gotcha. Wink, wink. So we've done some work. We've driven all the way out to downtown LA and trying to park our 9-foot transit van in a somewhere where we don't clip the top of the parking structure. And so the commercial is very good. We try not to market ourselves as the OCTasker when we go there. So we've created some t-shirts that just say facilities management. So we put those on. It's kind of more generic. So we don't have to explain, well, I'm OCTasker and I'm actually working for this company. So it just looks like we represent ourselves as the company that dispatched us there, so that's working out really well.
Brent, we've just got a few minutes here, man. If you don't mind, like what if you could name like your biggest win, biggest loss, and then any kind of parting advice, especially geared towards people that are just getting started, that are trying to figure all this out.
Yeah, I'd love to. So biggest wins and losses, real quick. So, I get to do what I want. I have full control. I'm not in the corporate world and having to answer to somebody else. I get to answer to myself, but I also have to do the hunt and the kill as well, right? So, which I enjoy. I enjoy the sales pursuit. I really enjoy that piece of it. And some of the other biggest wins that we've had are getting involved. We also are involved with Airbnb maintenance, as we do monthly maintenance plans as well. Those have been very effective for us. And then getting the van and wrapping that has been a big help too. But the losses are initial dip in salary. I made a lot more money as a corporate guy. I knew I was going to have to take a dip in order to go through the valley of despair and then come up the scale. So learning what not to do, and also the bigger loss is not spending enough time at home. My kids are grown and out, but my wife is home, and so it does take me away from that. So that's been a big loss. But I'm hoping to run the business from the office and then have other people do the work. Right, that's the end game for me.
One step at a time.
Yeah. So parting advice, I would say, which I love this part of the podcast because this is, I think, where people get a lot of the tips. And we've mentioned tips, as we've gone through. But like I said, use something like a TaskRabbit to get started. get the reviews, start low and move your prices up. Just jump in and start doing it. There's a lot of things that we are asked to do that we haven't done before. There's plenty of places to find information, YouTube, podcasts, mentors out there. Always try projects that stretch you. Learning and failing is a learning opportunity, right? So you know how to do it better the next time. And like we said, there's so much content out there on the Facebook groups that we mentioned as well too. So I would say those would be the biggest tips that I have to get going in a handyman business.
Love it. And I love I've never heard it said that I got to do the hunting and killing as well. So I love it, man. Whole new aspect of the handyman business. So yeah. Thanks for that. All right, friends, that's a wrap of this episode of the Handyman Success Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on your journey in building a thriving handyman business. We would love to hear your thoughts on this episode, whether you learned something new or you're facing challenges that you're just not quite sure how to deal with. We would absolutely love to hear from you. We would love it if you would leave us a review, drop us a comment, or hit that like button telling us that you liked this episode. By doing this, you truly help and support us in creating more of these podcast episodes to help change the handyman industry to something amazing. And I want you to remember that you are not alone on this journey. Jason and I are here to help. If you need anything at all in regards to business or marketing, you can reach out to either Jason or I at handymansuccess.net. You can go over there right now and set up a free consultation call with either of us. We would absolutely love to talk with you. So thanks again for spending this time with us. And until next time, go out and be a blessing.